on. You learn your ABCs, Johnny. Learn your how to count 1 through 10, just over and over and over again, a little thing like that. These people systematically and faithfully, for the child is able to be addressed as a student, and when they get to be 12 years old, and it's not just the Jews, Eastern religions in general, the Muslims, the Islamic people, they do the same thing. Those kids, because of their culture, they are orientated in the Word of God to a thorough degree by the time they are 12 years old. So having that in mind, that Jesus' life in the Bible experience is very brief. His birth and this episode, and then the next time we see him prior to launching his ministry, he's being baptized by John the Baptist. That's one insight. There's a couple of them. Now, here's another one. The pilgrimage for the feast in Jerusalem, especially this one, Passover and first fruits and the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Of the 7 feasts commanded by the law that they had to attend, most people attended at least these 3, Passover, first fruits, and the Feast of Unleavened Bread. The other ones were not so much of a attendance by all the people. Now here's the thing. Jesus and Mary and them lived 72 miles from Jerusalem. They had to walk. So this pilgrimage, if you can imagine in your mind, all the Jews in Palestine from their own homes in different places are coming together like streams to a river. The closer they get to Mount Zion to be able to go up to Jerusalem where the temple was. And all of these people are traveling with like a convocation or a convention. It's a religious pilgrimage, and it's more structured going to the temple than it is leaving from the temple. I'll tell you why in a minute. Now, here's what they do. They ain't just walking and saying howdy doody. They do that. They do that going home. But coming to the temple, they are singing Psalms 120 to 134 are the ascent psalms, and they are all just singing and marching on their way, and they get louder and louder. And Ken brought out somebody else. It wasn't no 2 or 3 or 25, 30 people. This was an enormous group of people growing all the time. By the time they get to the temple, they are focused and they are spiritually inspired, and and everybody is accountable, because it hadn't just been a journey. It's like a parade, if you will, on the way to worship. Now, having that in mind, on the return trip, everybody leaves Jerusalem at the same time, the last day of the feast. All those people. And it's not that Joseph and Mary were unattended as parents. They just had been on this journey many times, and Jesus has never been unaccounted for as they were going home. But on this occasion, with all the people, just understand, they went a day's journey. Now, a day's journey in the Jewish culture was about 20 miles. Sabbath day journey was 2/3 of a mile. On the Saturday, you can travel that for. But on the other days, a day's journey is approximately 20 miles. They were going north to to Nazareth, and they had been gone a day's journey, and they recognized that Jesus was not there, and so they went back to it. Okay, thank you. Went back to seek after him to see where he was. Now, here's another thing. In this pilgrimage, it was kind of like a homecoming. You got to see relatives, friends, and folks you know who did not live in your town, because the the society was not as mobile as it is today, where everything is, you're always moving around. People lived in little remote villages and things like that. But on these religious occasions, it was a big thing. They were all getting together. So going home, there was a lot of fellowship among the people in conversations, because they had worship and they were just going back to home, and they're not going to see this person when they get close to their house. They got to turn off here and that one got to turn off there, and so the crowd is gradually dissipating as they're going. But that's what it was. It was simply a matter of all these potentially 1,000 kids, because the formation when they would travel was the children be out front, and then the women, and then the men would be in the last. That's the way they did it. That was the order of the procession. And so they were look out and you know, kids that young, some of them even resemble each other when they did. And they said, look, I thought that was you. No, that's Leroy. How about him, Mama? You know, kind of that kind. Just it's the human experience of Jesus. It's not deity in regards to what we're saying. Now, when attending these feasts, it was a festus. I just said that time. Now, let me get down where I didn't talk. Now, the child Jesus was filled with wisdom, verse 40, and he was aware of his special mission of what he was going to be. But now understand, there's nothing impressive about Jesus as God being full of wisdom. That's not the emphasis. Having knowledge and wisdom. The emphasis is that this 12-year-old boy. And what is that saying? That's saying that culture, in the rearing of their children, exposed them to and orientated them about their religion to the extent it became well known by these kids. And he was certainly a special human being. But he was also ordinary. There was nothing supernatural about his humanity, other than it was perfect humanity. He was without sin. But as God, at the same time, the mystery of the incarnation, he knows everything, all the things. He knew about everything. But the emphasis is not on that; it's on himself. So most obviously, because he knew his mission, I must be about my Father's business, tells us that what's supposed to happen in the Lord's house is the Lord's business. and more about that later. These few minutes I got here, I'm going to quit here in a minute. I see y'all went over, now I'm going over. Now, Luke makes it clear over and over again that he was about his wisdom. Now, Nazareth is not an easy place for a lad to grow up. It was a city that had earned the label, can anything good come out of Nazareth? And one reason for that is it was a remote Roman outpost for military town, and there was a lot of elements there. It is no longer, and say what we, when I say we black people, black Americans, we Christians haven't understood. This is like a relay race. We are here today because somebody passed the baton to us that they received from the generation before them, just like that. But we dropped the baton somewhere, because the two generations of our culture people right now, they don't have the conviction, the interest, and the commitment to the Bible and the church that we have. But in this illustration, they worship together. Worshiping together is most important during the early years of rearing a child. It will make a valuable difference in the life of a child. And that's so true in my church that we have. But in this illustration, they worship